was the dopest shit. Snake trouble mimicking exactly how the cobra hits a diamond on my back.
So the Mercuries are made up of Jacob Reiner on guitar, Carly Bates on keys and vocals, Gus Campbell on bass, and Malik Nelson on drums. And the band started from Jacob Reiner approaching me at a festival in 2019 when he was doing a live band set with Jalapa Bungus. And he came up to me after their performance and he was like, yo, we should do this for you. So let's plan on a show. And through those rehearsals, just a lot of like natural chemistry and friendship started to arise. And very quickly, I fell in love with the live versions we were making as a band, more than what was on my Spotify. And so, you know, after a couple of years of playing with them, they started making original beats or original demos, and I'd start writing over those. And then we started really building songs up from the ground up rather than them reinterpreting previous songs of mine. What brought me to make music myself was honestly just like falling in love with it and being so passionate about it at such an early age. You know, like one of my earliest memories ever is of my sisters playing 50 Cent in the club, and, you know, they were playing all the early 2000s hip hop and R&B, and, you know, through hand-me-down iPods and being able to scour YouTube on like the family computer, I just like very quickly fell in love with every element of hip-hop and the culture and the essence and what it represents. And yeah, I just love how much of like a rapper's origin story is so important to them, like what they create and what they write. And I just really related to that and wanting to tell my own story and my own struggles, and you know, really just have an art medium that felt like, you know, therapy, and felt like a diary, and felt like a journal. Even before I ever wrote my first verse, which would have been in like the 3rd or 4th grade of elementary school, since I fell in love with rap at such an early age, I mean, I used to just like rap in front of the mirror and like pretend I was other people. So I really felt like I was just like destined to do this shit, you know. I have 2 favorite songs, the intro and the outro. So the intro, Sunkissed, I think is just the thesis statement of the entire Terminal A era and where I was and what I wanted to express. I feel like you could like hear that one song and you'll get bits and pieces of every song that follows. I just dive into it in more detail, but it really feels like Sunkissed is like the perfect introduction of who I am, who I was, I guess, back then. And it has a groovy ass vibe and an amazing chorus and amazing rap verses, and has bars, but it's simple. There's braggadocio, there's introspection. So it really just feels like a really well-rounded song. My other favorite song being the outro, Terminal A. I mean, the entire album just feels like such a soul-searching, cathartic experience, and I feel like on the outro, it's the most digestible, you know? Like, I explore 3 different really significant time periods of my life, and on record, I mean, that 3rd verse was such a spiritual breakthrough for me. I mean, like, I had a psychedelic like experience after writing and recording that, and sobbed for like days, and it really altered my worldview forever. And I'll just always cherish that song for that reason of like, it felt like such a spiritual channeling moment, and something that like I felt like my higher self was like informing me to write. And I always just wanted to make it like a 6-7 minute song, outro, crazy vocals. I mean, like, it's just such a fucking sick moment. So like, lyrically, spiritually, artistically, that one just feels like something I'm so proud of. You know, to speak for myself, a huge influence of me over the last few years will always be like Kendrick Lamar, Mac Miller, Andre 3000, MF Doom. But really, when I first started writing this album, a lot of the instrumentation was inspired by like Cleo Soul and Erykah Badu and A Tribe Called Quest at moments. And you know, my band is such an eclectic group of immensely talented musicians, and they could probably name some better references and inspirations that we drew from. I definitely heard, you know, the name D'Angelo being thrown around a lot, you know, especially when my bassist would come up with a new riff. But yeah, those names that I mentioned really were significant for me. My biggest obstacle of putting out an album of this caliber, I think, was the ability to sit back and be incredibly vulnerable and have an incredibly intimate, creative relationship with the executive producer, the guitarist, my best friend Jacob. I mean, being able to go back and forth with him and allowing a voice of praise and sometimes critique of, you know, being able to trust when to let an idea go or to rewrite something or to really double down on something. That felt like, you know, an obstacle in the moment, but something that ended up just happening and ended up helping my personal and emotional growth a lot. Time felt like an obstacle, you know, like making songs like this aren't done in one studio session. They're done in multiple writing sessions, multiple studio sessions, multiple mixing sessions, and working with, you know, an independent local artist budget. You know, sometimes we didn't have time to like lock down, like, okay, we're gonna do this for a week. And just with how busy everyone in my band is. So, yeah, I guess those were a couple obstacles. But honestly, like in hindsight, obviously, hindsight's always 2020. I feel I wouldn't change a single thing about how it was done. What can we expect? I mean, there's Terminal A. Naturally, there's got to be a Terminal B. There's a whole yin and yang. There's a high and a low. There's a colorful and black and white. And yeah, that'll definitely be coming out this year, as well as just a lot more music. Something I strive for this year is to do a lot more single releases and stay a lot more consistent in that realm. I'm such a project-oriented artist and prefer to write with a greater concept or idea in mind. But I really just want to start putting out music more frequently just to see what would happen in terms of growing my audience, especially, you know, in and outside of Arizona. You know, like I've taken some pretty long gaps in the past from releasing, and it's always been a good measure in terms of making sure I deliver quality and have the visuals there and ready to promote and all those sorts of things. But yeah, this year just feels like the year of discipline for me and just showing up in a way for my music, for my art, and for my, you know, materialization of putting stuff out there and promoting it. I just want to be, you know, a lot more consistent this year. So yeah, you can expect that, more music, more shows, and, you know, hopefully just bigger things and bigger blessings. I mean, the universe has rewarded us with many opportunities, and I'm forever grateful for those. So hopefully just more of those on the way, you know?